Well, I'm Mary Ann, and I'm the founder of Eric's House, and I'm here tonight with two very, very special guests, Sarah Miller Combs. Sarah, raise your hand because I see you're actually
Mary Ann.
noted as Mary Ann. So thank you for being here, Sarah. And
You're
Rita
welcome.
Morton. Hi, Rita.
Hi.
I just wanted to acknowledge both of you for being willing to talk with us tonight about your journeys with your sons. I know I've been there, and I know that it takes just a huge amount of courage and fortitude and willingness to share your stories with others in the hopes that maybe one or two of us might learn something from your journeys. And so thank you very much for being here. I'd like to start with you, Rita, a quick introduction. You lost your son, Chad, who was 30 years old, almost a year ago. In fact, it will be a year on June 23rd. And he died of an accidental fentanyl overdose. A little bit about Rita. She also has another son, Nick, who right at the same time as she lost Chad was moving across the country, and I think it was to live in New York.
Yeah.
And so you kind of lost two kids at the same time, in a sense.
Right.
You attribute your journey from deep loss to an even deeper faith to the gifts of surrender, courage, and grace. And I love the way that sounds. You're retired from a 22-year career as director of sales for a manufacturing company, and you're also the co-founder of a long-standing women's ministry that develops programs, retreats, and courses steeped in contemplative tradition. And I know since we've talked, you're very passionate about helping other women in a variety of ways. So it's a great background, Rita, and thanks for being here again.
Thank you. Thank you.
And Sarah was one of our first clients here at Eric's House, and really quite an amazing story. You're coming up on 2 years since your son Adam passed, and he also died of fentanyl, correct?
Correct.
So Sarah is a registered nurse. She's been a nurse for 35 years. She's been a nursing director, manager, educator for most of her career. Adam was 26 when he passed in 2018. Sarah's hope and passion is to help others with their grieving to prevent further tragedy. And as a result of her experience, she left her job as a dialysis nurse and is now head nurse at a local rehab here in Phoenix, Arizona called Scottsdale Recovery. Her professional and personal experience with addiction have brought her to this position with a passion to help others, and her hope is to make a difference in her clients and her family's lives. So welcome, Sarah.
Thank you.
All right. So Rita, I'd like to start with you. If you wouldn't mind, tell us a little bit about your story. Maybe start with Chad, who Chad was, what his struggle with addiction was, and I'll just let you take it from there.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Mary Ann. First of all, it's an honor to be here with all of you. Thanks, Sarah. Great to share with you. And I just really hope that something that I say tonight will bring hope or help to, anyone here in this room tonight. So pleased that you're here and really sad that you're all here. Wish that none of us were here tonight, but I'm glad that since we are going through this, we do have this Eric's House to come together. And it's certainly been a remarkable and healing part of my journey. So thanks, Mary Ann.
You're welcome.
Okay, so Chad marched to the beat of a different drummer, and he was a drummer. He was a very accomplished drummer, but he was also very sensitive and quiet, very funny, although I didn't often think he was funny because I was his mom and we were very different. And so as with all, I think, relationships with children who are in addiction or who have trouble or struggle, the relationship with a parent is always complicated. So, it's hard to tell a story. I could tell the story in 10 different ways, really. So, and every month of my recovery, things change and I get a clearer perspective. So the story I tell tonight is not the same story I'll tell next year, and it wasn't the same I would tell 6 months ago. So that's interesting that the story kind of changes. But so alcoholism is in my family, and Chad did not escape that. So, he was very much, he certainly experimented with all kinds of drugs in high school and in his early adult years, but really I think what held him in its claws was alcohol. And he, I think, was escaping, like many of us, escaping how hard life can be. And because Chad was sensitive and he wasn't a mover and a shaker in this world, life was a little bit harder for him than, because he really wore his heart on his sleeve. So anyway, through high school, he did a lot of drinking and partying. And then about a year after he graduated high school, his father, my ex-husband, completed suicide. And so that journey kind of took Chad and his brother, and actually me too, down the rabbit hole in different ways. And so for the next 10 years until Chad's death, he really struggled with getting and staying sober. So he had about 4 bouts of 2 years of sobriety. And then it was like every time he got to that 2-year mark, he just couldn't seem to get over that hump. So the night before Chad died, he was about to celebrate within the next few days his, like I said, 4th bout of 2 years of sobriety. And he was at an AA meeting that night. He went to AA all the time, probably daily for many years. And after that AA meeting, he scored some drugs. I don't know what he thought he was buying. I think he thought maybe he was buying some cocaine, but whatever he was buying, there was fentanyl in it. So his brother, Nick, picked me up that next Sunday morning, or Sunday afternoon, actually, and we were all supposed to have dinner together because, as Marianne mentioned, Nick was about ready to move to Manhattan, and we were all going to celebrate that. Nick was going to fly out the next day to Manhattan and do his new life. And Nick picked me up and said, I can't get in touch with Chad. And I said, we need to go there. And we really never went to Chad's place. He lived with like 5 other guys, and it just wasn't something that I really did, but I knew that I had to. I had a very bad feeling that whole weekend. So we got to Chad's house, and there's a lot of complicated details to this 5 hours of trauma, but Nick and I found Chad deceased in his bedroom, and the intense trauma of that begins there. And that is when I dropped to my knees next to Chad and said, because I have a foundation, my faith tradition is Catholic, and I just said, oh, sweetie, I gave you to the Lord, when you were born, and he's yours. And wow, that was hard, but that's what all happened a little less than a year ago. And that's my story. So
Rita, what was the first couple months like for you?
So shocking, and walking around in circles, telling myself, Rita, just only unload the dishwasher, or just only try to do this laundry, because I would start tasks and then just be flipping all over the house because I wasn't in my body. I was so dissociated. Yeah. But on the other hand, I really feel like I was wrapped in a bubble of grace. I was covered in prayer, and I really knew that, and I trusted in that. So that's kind of what got me through.
Yeah. that initial period of just pure desperation and not being able to focus, everything's confused and chaos. And yeah. Okay, thank you. I'm going to segue over to Sarah. So Sarah, tell us a little bit about your story.
Well, Adam was my firstborn child. I had 2 stepchildren before him and 1 daughter after. So we had a family of 4, and they all grew up in a very happy house, and we were always having fun. He was diagnosed with like ADD when he was like in 2nd grade. So that kind of started his mental health issues because he was on medication. He didn't like it. So we would drop him off of it because he was like a zombie. When he was like 12, we were in a horrible rollover car accident, and his friend died in the accident. And from that point on, he was probably 6th grade, started smoking pot, trying to hide it from me. I tried to guide him. It didn't work. And that was like all I felt like he did. He wasn't much of a drinker. And through his high school life, a few times he would get depressed, and I would take him to behavioral health center, and I'd try to get him help, try to get him on antidepressants. He wouldn't have anything to do with it. So I tried. Him and his dad, we'd take him. And most of the time he was really good. He was a really advanced musician also. He was in a band. This is his bass guitar here behind me. I don't know if you see it, because this is his room here at Eric's house. And he really loved music. When he was on the stage, it was magical. I mean, to watch him on YouTube and everything now, I just love it because I still have that recording of him. But the reality of life was really tough for him, and truly his drug problems were very short-lived as far as I know. He lived with me, and he worked full-time, and he was going to school. He was trying to really make something of himself. And probably January of 2018, he was working a night job as a sleep study tech, and I was very proud of him. And every month we would go over a budget, because he wanted to buy a car and do all these things, so I was like in denial, because every month he would have no money. I'm like, what, you're working full time. How do you not have money? You live with me for free. What is this? But, I just every month we'd rebudget and rebudget. And then that was January of 2018. And then over those next few months, he would be sleeping all the time. And he'd go, Mom, I'm tired. I work night shift. I'm like, okay, well, you do. And I know that's hard, but, he would just sleep. A couple times he got up and he like stumbled, and still I'm like, Adam, what's wrong with you? What happened? He's like, I'm just tired. So I believed him. So this all went on for like a few months, and then May 5th of 2018, it was Cinco de Mayo. A friend of his showed up that I hadn't seen since they were like in grade school. And he was, not to, categorize anybody, but he was all tattooed and really skinny and didn't look good. And I'm like, what's he doing here? Oh, Mom, he's just down and out. I'm just helping him move. So I'm like, okay, well, that's really nice of you, Adam. So he helped him move, and I made dinner that night, and everything was really peaceful. And then I went into my room, and all of a sudden I hear all this crashing in my house, and I come out, and 2 boys had come in from the outdoor with bats, and they were doing a home invasion, and they were beating up everybody, and things were flying all over my house, and I'm just screaming, like, what is going on here? We're just having dinner. And then as soon as I screamed, and my neighbors called 911, we had the whole SWAT team there. And by the time they got there, there was not a soul at my house except my son and myself. Everybody was gone. And then they searched our house, and they were there several hours. And then like at 11 o'clock at night, my son and I were still just sitting on the front porch. They came out and they said, Adam, is there something you need to tell your mom? And I'm like, what? Adam looks at me. He's like, Mom, I'm a drug addict. I need help. I'm going to be the next one to die. So I'm like, I was in shock, but I took a breath and I hugged him. I'm like, okay, all right, we're going to get you taken care of. So that next day we had a family meeting. He didn't want me to call the family, but I called all of his brothers and sisters and dad, and we all, either on the phone or sitting in my living room, sat and chatted with him, and we got him into a rehab the very next day. So he started that Monday. He was there for 30 days. And in that time frame, I had just started a new job. I was a director out at Chandler Regional Hospital, and I was thinking, okay, you're in a safe place, Adam. I can learn my new job. I'll be fine. So I would talk to him every night. He would call me, and we would chat, and I really was in denial. The rehab didn't help me much. They didn't call me. They didn't tell me what was going on. All I just knew is that he was safe. So that went on for 30 days. And then when he got out, The rehab didn't say anything to me. I'm like, well, what do I need to do to take my son home? I'm not a alcohol and drug rehab nurse. I don't know what I'm looking for. And they said, he's just discharged. I'm like, what does that mean? What do you mean he's just discharged? Tell me what to look for. So I took him home, and that was a Thursday. And then we went to Scottsdale Recovery Center that day because that's where he was going to start his outpatient care on Monday. So they evaluated him. He went home for the weekend. Everything was fairly good, I thought. And then that Monday morning, when I went to wake him up, he was dead. So he had come into me the night before Sunday and had all these goals written on a whiteboard. You know, he's going to pay off his debt. He was going to go back to school. He had like 10 things that he wanted to accomplish. So I truly believe for him, it was just like a last dose. I'm just going to do it one more time. And I'm in there doing CPR and calling, and there was no waking him up. He was gone.
Yeah.
And that was June 4th.
Yeah.
2 days from now.
Yeah, 2 days. And thank you for pointing out Adam's room. We do a lot of good work in there and really feels like Adam in there. So Sarah, let me ask you the same question I asked Rita. What was the first few months like for you?
Very much of a blur, you know. I didn't know what to do. My girlfriend said you have to get out of bed every day, and if you're gonna lay around all day, lay on the couch, but you have to get out of your bed. So they would, and my friends would come over every day, and they would bring meals to me, and they would make sure I was eating and make sure I was moving. I moved my daughter. She was here. Took her back to Colorado like that week, and then I started my job again, you know, the one that I'd had. So I went back to work. And I really don't even know if I worked a week or a day. I can't really remember. And I just went in and said, I can't do this job. You know, it's brand new. It's too much to learn, and I can't do it. So those first few months, I went back to Ohio. I spent time with my friends there. Truly, the only thing that got me through those first few months is my church and my friends and my family, because they would just surround me with love. They would call me every day. They would bring meals over. And they would just make sure I was getting out of bed and moving.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a job for those first few months. I just basically was home.
Which of course is all okay, right? Exactly where you're supposed to be.
Right.
Thanks, Sarah. Rita, you know, we've talked about the stigma associated with drug use and drug overdoses. And, you know a little bit about my story. My son was a heroin addict. Although he didn't die from drugs, he died by suicide. But I know for a long time I carried, you know, I never talked about my son being a heroin addict because of the stigma. And you and I have talked about that in the past. And can you tell us a little bit about how you manage dealing with that stigmatization?
Well, I mean, in so many regards, it's unmanageable, to be honest with you. It's a terrible thing to add insult to injury when you've already lost, you know, the heart of your heart. And then when people find out the reason, some people find out the reason, you know, why your child died, it feels that they automatically dismiss your child and their life and the meaning of their life because it was a drug-related death. And for some reason, it feels like they don't matter. And so it's very painful to deal with that. And although I can sit here and give you platitudes and tell you that, you know, there's a saying that says it's none of your business what other people think about you. And you know that it can only take you so far because it's the pain of your heart is so deep. So what has helped me more than anything of all with that is literally calling a friend that I made in the support group at Eric's house who has gone through the same situation, and really be able to have someone that completely understands how my heart feels because her heart feels the same way. And that has been vital to me to have a partner to go through this journey together that has experienced basically the same thing, as close as you can get to the same thing, since we all have our same, you know, a different story. But
Right.
that has been very helpful, because the stigma, I mean, you can let it go as much as you can, but at the end of the day, it just breaks my heart to
Yeah.
have someone not want to know about Chad or
Yeah.
dismiss Chad because
Yeah.
of drugs.
Sure. It's so easy for people to define your son by the way they died.
Right.
And you know, and I know I felt that way, but also, you know, this whole idea that you as a mom or a parent must have done something wrong.
Absolutely. That very much comes up.
Right.
I mean, and you know, people could say that I'm imagining that, but I'm very intuitive and insightful, and we all
It's
are.
true.
And you know, we're not imagining
Right. It's
it.
true.
Yeah.
And
it's also great. Sorry.
I do like what you said about having a partner who understands the loss for both of you. When I lost Eric, I didn't have anybody with a similar loss.
Mhm.
But it's so great to just be able to be with people that they already know what you're going through. They already know the deep pain and sorrow. And it's very comforting to know that you don't have to explain yourself or be judged in any way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and in addition to that person that, you know, walks that journey, I mean, I'm also been blessed with, you know, a very dear friend that, you know, and other friends as well that can be present to me, because I'm sure all of us can say that there are friends that we never thought would not be able to handle our loss, and others that really rise to the occasion in a way that is so surprising, you know. And then you have a true blue friend that you just know is going to be there for you, and what a blessing that is. But
Yeah.
it is shocking, the friends that you think would be with you and they just can't. They can't manage it, you know.
You can't manage it, and also acknowledge the fact that the death is so transformational for you personally.
Right.
That you change, and it stands to reason that perhaps your circle of friends might change as well.
Yeah, not to mention my language. That's definitely changed, and we talk about that quite a bit in group. And
Right.
you know, so give yourself a break if that's happening in your world.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think I know what word you're referring to.
Absolutely. Noun, adjective, you know, preposition, everything. Yeah.
Sarah, I wanted to go back to denial, because I relate to that personally. I had no idea my son was using heroin. It seemed so normal to me all the time. And I know that I was in denial, and we just don't want to believe that our kids are in trouble. So talk a little bit about that. And I know that it's very relevant to the work that you're doing now.
Right. Well, for me, it was very short-lived, and I thought, you know, that I took Adam in, did everything I could do for him, and I thought, you're an adult, you're growing up, you're going to school, you're making all the right choices, and I was proud of him up till the day he died. It didn't. I was proud of him even through rehab. You know, that you're going, that you're making these choices, but unfortunately, what I've truly learned, mainly from where I'm working, is to understand it, and that's why I went to work at a drug and alcohol rehab. I knew nothing about it. I walked in there like, hey, I need a job and this is where I want to work. And I was lucky enough that they thought I had enough skills to come in there. And I've learned from all of my clients, I'm like, have family groups, talk to your family, let them know, because, you know, like me, when he was in that rehab, I had no idea what they're doing in there. Are they playing tennis every day? Are they eating cookies? What are they doing? And, you know, where I work, we have these beautiful homes with swimming pools and jacuzzis and tennis courts. So to their families that look at our website, they probably think, oh, what is this, like Malibu? You know, is this like a vacation? No, it's not. They're putting in so much hard work. They're doing everything they can, and they need the families to understand what they're doing there. So when you get out, we're encouraging them, you know, but it's scary because you come out of rehab, oh, you're the same drug addict? Have you learned anything? Has anything changed? And so my whole weekend of my son being home, I just acted like normal, like everything's fine. And it wasn't. He was using that whole weekend, as far as I know. So, I mean, this denial, it's like you just want them to be well. You want them, whatever normal is, you know, you want them to survive this world, get through the struggles. And that's what I work with every day with my clients. It's like, life's hard. You know, when you're in this little bubble here at our center, you know, we're taking care of you, we're feeding you, we're giving you meds, we're putting you through therapy. But all these skills are to help you get out and to survive in this world. And these kids have to know that there's hope out there. You know, we need to, you know, if our children are dead, we, you know, I read all these Facebook things where all 5 of their children have died from overdoses. I'm just like, that would be beyond my comprehension, like if all my children were dead. So it's like the more we talk to our children, the less we're in denial. We talk to them, we find out what they're doing, and we get them the help and let them know that this is a lifelong struggle. It's not going to be over in 2 weeks after you get out of detox.
Yeah. Did you feel any guilt by, or because you didn't recognize that he was in trouble?
Yes.
Yeah.
I feel guilt over everything. I feel guilt over getting divorced, over a car accident, over not grounding him more often when he was smoking pot, you know, to going out and having a beer with him when he was 21. I mean, there's so many things that you can do, you know, like my daughter, she did all those things too, but she's not an addict and she's okay. You know, it was just a different channel for him. And his brain, you know, once he got that Percocet with the fentanyl in it, he said 2 times he used it and he was hooked. 2 times. You know, most people can go out and do a line of coke or go out and smoke a joint or go drink a beer and they're okay. That's the average person, but the addict can't. They can't. So yes, I have guilt for everything in my life because of how he is and what happened.
Yeah.
And because I didn't wake up an hour earlier and maybe would have found him.
Right. How about you, Rita?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's guilt. And, you know, I happen to be on the journey of sobriety. I've been sober for 7 years. And so I can tell you that, you know, guilt isn't only because, you know, my son died. There's guilt over everything regarding being a mother. And even if there wasn't the issue of sobriety, there'd be some other issue. Like as a mother, you know, the second you have a child, you get to inherit guilt. I mean, I just think that that's part of the human condition, you know? And so, you know, one thing that I'm trying to do to not get stuck in that guilt, which is just so challenging. And of course I go there often, and it's really been on my heart today. So I hope you're okay if I move into a little bit of a different topic, Marianne, is that, I am really working hard on what I can do from this point forward. And one of the struggles that I'm really having is how I manage my relationship with my surviving son. Because I don't want to do, so the guilt is, what am I going to do about anything that happened in the past? And I made so many mistakes, you know, but how do I now pivot and move forward with the life that I have now? And I mean, the bottom line is that Chad is gone and he's fine. I'm not fine, but he's fine. And so now I've got Nick and I have to figure out how my grief doesn't drag him down. And I can really play a role in my grief dragging him down, and I'm not even doing it on purpose.
Of course not.
So, you know, that I think is something really good to talk about and think about, and how moving forward we can transmute that grief actually into something that is a positive way where, okay, we did a lot of things wrong, we feel bad about them, but how do we take those feelings and then, okay, now let's move forward and in a way make amends to Chad by how we manage the siblings, you know? So that's been something that I've been really wrestling with a lot lately.
Okay, well, and there is a lot in that because, you know, not to generalize, but siblings grieve very differently than parents, and men also grieve very differently than women. And it is a generalization, but, you know, there are different approaches to grieving. And, kids often run to the rescue of the parent, and parents often run to the rescue of the child, and so there's always a little bit of a disconnect. But the only way that you can really get through it is to just go through it and continue to have those conversations and be open with him, and try not to be hypersensitive, you know, by putting your grief on him and all those other things that we've talked about. But yeah, this is a excellent conversation for a group, uh, especially for people who are a little bit farther along in the journey. They're still so fresh. 1 year. So it just resonates with what you said in the beginning. What you say in your 11 month and how you feel in your 11 month is not the way you're going to feel in the 12th month, and it's not the way you're going to feel where Sarah is in the 24th month. So Sarah, let me ask you. You're coming up on 2 years on Thursday. What are the greatest challenges that you're facing now at the 2 year mark?
I'm trying to get my life back, that I'm not recognized by the son that died. You know, I mean, truly I present with everybody I meet that my son died. And it's important to me that they know that part of me, but I'm trying to get myself back. I'm trying to get more like, you know, Sarah is somebody that's recognized. She's not just the mother of a dead child. I have 3 other children. I have 3 grandchildren. I want to be present for them. So it's really important to me that I guess that I am supporting my family, that I'm moving forward and I'm more of a mother again instead of just a mess.
Yeah.
So that's my challenge.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So that's where I was at the 2 year mark. Wondering, what am I going to do next? What is my life going to look like? You've
But I
already
hate the new normal.
a huge transformation in your life by leaving your role as a dialysis nurse, going to work directly into a rehab. And so I really applaud that. Sometimes that's a very big part of how we heal, is by just changing it up so drastically. So,
and I was worried about that, and so were my friends. Like, really, you're just quitting the job that you've known for all these years and going to something else? I'm like, this is what I need to do. I mean, truly, from the day I think Adam died, I started talking about I want to go work in a rehab. That's what I want to do.
yeah. Okay.
So that's what.
How about you, Rita?
As far as change is concerned?
Yeah. How are you feeling now at the 1 year mark, and what does the next year look like for you?
Wow, if I only knew the answer to that. So I had a job for 22 years. You know, different than most of us, I jumped back into work after like 3 weeks. I think that was like to distract me. I spent a lot of time in distraction the first several months. And then I was forced into really dealing with a deeper mourning of Chad because due to COVID, I lost my job of 22 years a couple of months ago. So that is kind of really putting me in this place of a really deep dependence on God and trusting and surrendering to, I have no idea what is about to happen to me, but I am enthusiastic about the change, and I'm really trusting in a way that is supernatural as far as what is going to happen. And so, you know, but how I feel right now, the upcoming in the 1 year, it's awful. This has been the roughest bump that I have had coming up to this 1 year. I never thought, you know, because I'm not thinking to myself, oh, it's 1 year, it's going to be 1 year, it's going to be 1 year. But the bottom line is it's just present, omnipresent in my life that, you know, Chad's DNA is in me, and I can't help but not know that this anniversary is coming up. So it's been really rough, but I would like to say that the thing that's helped me the most this past year, and I've done a lot of different tools, but there's a little line, and when I'm at my wit's end, it's helped. And I've said, heaven, emergency, heaven. And honestly, I have been dosed with grace from just literally screaming out, heaven, emergency, because you know, when you're on your knees, like, you all understand, and you're emanating noises that you've never heard. and can't even imagine. The only thing sometimes you can say is have an emergency. And I could tell you it works.
Yeah.
So,
I know. Thanks for that, Rita.
mhm.
Sarah, how about you? Any final words for our viewers?
Well, it just depends on where they're at in their stage. I mean, just know that it ebbs and flows. Sometimes you can't even stand up even at 2 years. I'll be crying so hard. But then there's days I go days without crying, even though I think about him every day. I know initially those first few weeks and months, you don't think there's ever going to be a day of sunlight. You truly in your heart, you can't imagine it. But I do feel like things are opening up for me. I get out of bed most every day. Some days I don't want to get out of bed, but I force myself and I get some coffee and I just sit there and talk to Adam. I have like a whole, table of his ashes and his pictures and his baby pictures. And I just sit there and I talk to him. And I truly believe he hears me. And it gives me more strength to know that he's in heaven and he's happy and he's healthy and he's healed. And there's no drug addiction and there's no body aches and he's happy. He's happy.
Yeah. Well, ladies, thank you so much for sharing your stories. I mean, I'm really proud of you for being able to speak, especially if you both are coming up on an anniversary. So it's really very special. And I just wanted to say I admire your courage.
Well,
Thank you for having us.
yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. I'd like to address a couple of questions, and then I'm going to turn off the recording, and then we'll invite everybody back into the meeting room. Okay. So the first question is there anything you can do to let yourself off the hook once in a while or take a break from the guilt? Who wants to take that?
I try to be around my friends and to ride my bike and to go out to dinners. I mean, it's been rough through COVID because it's just been working home. But I do feel like when I am around my friends and family and out walking or out hiking, I let off some endorphins and I do feel better. And I do feel like, and I truly know that I'm not to blame in my mind, but in my heart, it aches so bad. So it's hard to get through that.
I will tell you that, I laugh a lot and I never lost my joy, and what a gift that was. So I'm really big on this whole concept of dosing, and Marianne taught that to me and it saved me. I mean, I just have a specific time. Okay, I might get hit by like a tornado of grieving, and then when that happens, I'll roll with it for an hour or so, but then I have to put it all away and really, get into a project or get into cleaning out a closet or get into, television sometimes just to veg out. But I think, knowing that there's a reason why I'm still here. And so I really kind of need to honor Chad in doing like what the work I'm supposed to be doing still, because I'm not leaving. I'm not going anywhere. So I might as well, to me, it's like, well, there's not an option. So just deal. And I'm not saying that I'm cheerful every single moment, but I really do try to see the laughter and things. And so, get yourself a really good friend who's funny, I say.
Yeah. Well, they do say laughter is a great medicine.
Yeah.
Another question, do you ever feel guilty for restoring joy or happiness back to your life, or laughing? Do you ever feel guilty about it, or do you ever feel that you're not honoring your son if you begin to enjoy life again?
I can speak to that. Probably the first year, I did feel like that. I didn't like to be around people if they were laughing. I thought, what do you have to laugh about? There's nothing joyful here. The week of my son's funeral, people were laughing. And of course, they can be talking and laughing. That's, we're having a celebration, but it really hurt me. It really hurt me that they could laugh and I didn't want to laugh. And even now, it's hard for me to find a lot of joy.
Okay.
It really is.
Yeah.
I would say that I don't feel guilty about that. What affects me more in the guilt is that my life is going on. And, you know, I'm experiencing new things and I'm meeting new people, and those new people don't have the frame of reference of knowing who Chad was. And that makes me feel sad, you know,
Yeah.
because there's this, like, it's like my leg's cut off and you didn't know me when I had the leg. And that's a creepy feeling, kind of.
Right, right. And also along those same lines, I know for me, I know I'm never going to forget everybody, but I'm worried that everybody else is going to forget Eric, right? And I don't want them to forget Eric. And you know, it's kind of an internal battle, you know, in terms of giving yourself permission to let your life move forward a little bit and actually have a little bit of fun. But there's so much that goes on internally in our heads, isn't there?
Mm-hmm.
It's different every moment. We have another question, then I'll bring everybody back into the room. What were some of the things you did to help with your grief?
So I'll start, and then Sarah, if you want to add to this. So I'm the kind of person that will use every resource available and then some. And so, like, tons of hot baths. I tried to drink a ton of water. Lucky for me, I am sober. So if I weren't, I could have easily gone down that path, but I didn't. And that was just really through the grace of God. But supplements, yoga. I would love to say I exercise, but I hate exercise. So I still need to work on that. You know, there's a meditation app called Insight Timer. And, you know, my brain was too busy to be able to do normal meditation where it was quiet. So to listen to guided meditations was really, really helpful. And then just getting involved in projects for me was a good distraction. So that's what, of course, prayer, but that's just for me what foundational. So that's what I have.
Okay, great. Thanks, Rita. Sarah?
Well, for me, I just want to tell my funny hospice story real quick. So when the police came and took my son's body away, they gave me like this grief booklet and said, call their grief counselor, which I did the next day. And they said, oh yeah, you should go to a hospice group meeting. So my whole family, all my kids, my ex-husband, we all go there. And I thought, okay, this is good. This is our first grief counseling. And everybody in there, they're like great grandparents that died 10 years ago, 98 years old, and, you know, dementia. And I'm like, and so they're all talking about how sad they were. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I just looked at my ex-husband. I'm like, this is not where we're supposed to be. Our son died yesterday. You know, it was so stressful. And so I left there and I called one of my good friends who also, Bridget, her son has a room here. And I called her. I'm like, Bridget, I just need help. Who can I go to? And she's like, oh my gosh, I just got off of the phone with this wonderful woman, Mary Ann, Eric's house. Called her. And truly, Mary Ann, I think, had me in the next day. I think it was in the first week of Adam dying. And I just really bonded with her. She got me into therapy. All that helped. She gave me that same thing, that Insight Timer. That must have come from you because I have it too. And all those things were so good for me. I still listen to it every single night. I lay down in bed. It's like an hour long. And I listen to this like same 3 ones. And it's just very comforting to me. Same with exercise. I hate exercise, but I'm trying to ride my bike. I'm trying to get out and move. I'm trying to eat better. But truly, what helps me through everything are my friends. You know, I can call on them. They'll come over. And of course, that's slowed down over the past 2 years. But this week, I've just been hearing from everybody, from my son's friends. They're going to come over and have dinner with me Thursday night. And I'm like, great, what do I need to do? And they're like, we're doing it everything. We're doing it all. So I just feel like I don't normally allow people to take care of me and to pamper me. And it's just like been such a joy to let that happen. Let them come in, let them call me, let them know how sad I am and listen to me cry. And, you know, I'm the same thing. I don't want them to forget Adam. And, and I feel like, gosh, I still talk about Adam all the time, but I'm gonna. And, you know, that's the way it is.
Yeah. Well, it's amazing, even in, you know, the aftermath of these horrible losses, the death of our kids, we still find blessings, right? So, okay, well, ladies, thank you so much.